Hello, everybody, and welcome to, where are we? We're live on LinkedIn. Welcome to the media show. And with that, we're going to bring in our panel around the world. First, Sasha Starr is coming in from Canada, who also produces the show in Ukraine, and also Modern Investing, and also the Chess Show, which is watched by quite a few people. And then we also have James Eade, who needs to change my mind. He's not been able to do it so far. But again, welcome to the impossible dream. And then we have from the left coast also Rick Rosner, a former writer for Jimmy Kimmel Live, and the person that has 100 years of experience and can help me with things, Mark Lee. And then finally, the president of the Pod TV network, Kim Calhoun. And Mark can help me. How do you get rid of this stupid StreamYard Live?
Well, we just go right there to the banner where it says overlay, and you can.
I got rid of it. Okay. Well, we have a big problem here, that we want to bring up in the media. It's called Marvel Studios. Marvel Studios launched this Marvel movie, and they spent $200 million plus on it, and they only got $40 million in the box office. So the question we have for the panel is: Marvel and Disney Studios in trouble financially? So we will start with. Well, I would start with Mark, but I'll start with Jim Eade because I think they're down in your ways. Marvel Studios, and didn't some guy create all that stuff down in San Francisco? And is Disney in trouble? Jim?
Yeah, Disney's in no trouble at all. You can pick on a particular film that bombed, but I also want to point out California is a huge state. I live a long ways away from Hollywood, and I must say that one of the things that made me wonder about Marvel, the movie, it started the female. And most of these action-oriented sci-fi thrillers, these like the Avengers, were blockbusters, but they didn't have a female lead. So did that play a role in it? Because there are all these guys that are going out there to think that they could be the next Tony Stark, Iron Man. Are all these people not willing to pay to go see a female superhero? Maybe that's part of the problem. But no, the bottom line is Disney's fine.
Oh, Disney's fine. We'll give that to Kim Calhoun. What is your thoughts on Disney?
Well, I don't think that they're
female superheroes in the box office.
Female superheroes are hard to pitch, and you've got to make them look more super sexy to sell them than anything. And I've not seen this movie, so that's probably why they lost a couple of dollars. But the thing that I'm going to add here is NOL, net operating loss, and they can go backwards, forwards. So no, I don't think that they're going to struggle with this. I think that they need to rethink how they marketed what they had and go with that. But I agree with Jim. Being a female superhero is tougher than being a female in any other industry in this country. It's just a struggle and a lot of work, and it's a very singular job. So.
Right. Okay, Rick Rosner.
I worked for Disney for a dozen years, and I sued Disney. The thing about Disney is they're like what they used to say about Native Americans, that they use every part of the buffalo. Disney is pretty skilled at capturing, they've got their stock price takes hits from time to time, but they've got financial acumen, I think. Though they do have bloated middle management like everybody else.
Okay. Mark Lee, what's your thought about Marvel? Are you there?
Well, one, I've got to ask y'all, because as I recall, and I think somebody just mentioned it, there have been some amazing superheroes in the space of women heroes and along those lines. I remember growing up and being a fan and maybe even having a crush on Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman was a major superhero and definitely had an amazing actress that played that role and everything. And then, of course, there was Xena, which is also a great one that was on TV much later than Wonder Woman. And many people will let you know that in the second rendition of the Black Panther, and all along those lines, Wakanda Forever, there was a very strong woman lead in that as well. And there was Warrior King, which was all about a woman warrior and all in that space. So I think that there have been quite a few women that have done quite well as characters. I think that if I remember correctly, wasn't Frozen having a major character that was a woman? And there are a number of other women roles that have been in that lane. So there have been some strong women characters that have come out of the comic book lanes and all in that space. I do sometimes wonder, and this may be where maybe Jim and others, and even Rick, may agree or disagree, but you can wear out your welcome if you go down that path of doing rerun after rerun after rerun. And I think part of what's going on with this particular franchise, and particularly Marvel, is that, I mean, how many Star Wars have we seen already? And they're now getting ready to have the, the umpteenth version. I mean, when I am no longer on this planet, will there be Star Wars 100 and all in that space and all along those lines? And definitely there is some question about whether we might not be pushing it too far when we are having some of these sequels that seem to go on forever and a day, because sometimes, as we know, sometimes the greatest idea in Hollywood, or the greatest idea in entertainment, is to copy the same idea over and over and over and over and over again, and all in that space. So I think that may be where Marvel is running into trouble, and also maybe doing some recasting in some different non-traditional casting kind of ways, because I understand that might be going on with the Spider-Man movie and some of the other ones. But I'd love to hear other people's thoughts around that. But yeah, there have been some strong women characters that have done quite well in the comic book lanes, and I've just named a few of them.
Yeah, Rick.
It's just a challenge.
When you look at the history of superhero and science fiction movies, we got in 1977, the first Star Wars movie comes out, and people love it. Before that, you had to be a nerd to like science fiction. But Star Wars was the first movie where we had the technology so that it didn't look like garbage. And then it took another 20 years after that to start having the technology to make superhero action not look like garbage. And now with, the usual big budget Marvel movie employs 10,000 people around the world to do all the CG effects that make it look awesome. And until like this latest movie, you hire 10,000 people, you spent $200 million on the movie, maybe $100 million on marketing, and you get back $800 million to $1 billion. So for the past few years, superhero, particularly Marvel movies, have been the reliable bets. You always get a big payoff, to the point where, a Marvel movie, that $300 million you spend on it, but it squeezes out $10-30 million movies that are iffier in terms of box office.
Yeah. And when the company loses, like they will, let's say they lose 200 or 300 million, should the employees then put their paychecks back into the corporation coffers?
Nonsense.
Oh, that's right. The employees don't have any risk. I'm sorry. They get paid whether or not the corporation makes money or not.
The CEOs don't have any risk either, Nick.
Yeah, the CEO doesn't get their stock options, so they don't get paid. But that's another story.
They get paid.
Barbie did really well. Barbie did really well.
Barbie did very well, and Oppenheimer did very well.
And they only spent $145 million on creating the movie. I think in this particular case, they just overspent. They were not due diligent with the funds, and they just went crazy, kind of like some big corporations when you give them too much money and they go and blow it all on Rodeo Drive parties. You got to reel it in a little bit. Nick, you know who I'm talking about. So,
but in this case, whether we like it or not, the employees got paid, correct?
Yes, the employees got paid, and the directors and everyone making the movie got paid.
They didn't get paid that much, Nick. Come on. This is why people hate lawyers, Nick. Come on.
Corporation and investors took it on the shirts.
No,
Let's just
no,
agree.
no. The
So, let me-
corporation
We
is
don't
doing
any
fine,
crime
Nick.
for the corporation.
The Avengers,
We
how
don't
many
have any
movies did
If
the
they-
Avengers have? The movies the Avengers made were mega successes. You know, the
Yes.
Thor movies, how many Thor movies did they make? The mega successes. You know, so you're generalizing
go see
from
him.
N of one. That's a logic fallacy. You don't take one example and generalize. You know,
You
look
just
at-
hate investors. I don't get it.
No, I love investors. I am one. I am on Modern Investing with Sasha. Nick, don't tell lies. Come on. I love
you like
investing. I love investors. However, what we have to say is that the one movie failure does not a pattern make. You know, you're generalizing from an N of one. Everyone is fundamental. If you went to Logic 101, you learn not to do that. So you're making a big mistake, but it's a classic mistake. You know, Marvel was not a box office success, but compared to all the other box office successes, you know, we can't generalize and say, okay, Disney as a corporation is losing money. Disney's CEO is not getting paid. He's getting paid. He's getting paid a lot. So, you know, let's face it. What's going on in one movie does not make a pattern.
Here's a related
Jim,
question.
just along those same lines, and I'd love to hear, because actually I've heard Kim mention this movie. I think even Nick has mentioned it before, but there is a major issue that is going on in society, and it is a major movie that was a under the radar kind of movie that got a lot of attention for bringing this issue to the forefront and all along those lines. And apparently it's a movie that's being very much endorsed by a person I know that Sasha loves dearly, that being Mr. Trump and everything. But Sound of Freedom actually brings to the forefront the issue of child trafficking. So apparently this is a movie that is getting some major endorsement from the former president, Mr. Trump, and all along those lines, even though some people might say that he might even have some involvement in that whole industry, but that's a whole nother story. But it's a movie that is getting a lot of traffic because people are finding it a very compelling story about a government rescue to get some people out of child trafficking, and sex trafficking is and human trafficking is a major issue. So this was one that flew under the radar, but is definitely making a lot of noises in the movie industry. So any thoughts around that?
The real guy that movie is based on has been indicted for his own trafficking and abuse, which is
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you're going to cross over on that when you start mixing stories and trying to create something good. There's always going to be something bad hidden in there. But they generate. It was a very low budget created movie, and they made over 190 million. They're closing in on $1 billion because people are still watching it and donating. The controversy hurts the cause, which is really, really disappointing. But you're always going to run into that. And I think people don't need to look at that. They need to look at the cause that it was for and intended for. And people let this smoke and mirrors just take them away from the cause, as opposed to what they need to focus on the cause, and which is very important.
Yeah,
that was the Sound of the Freedom is a product of conservative media, which often is reactionary. Is like, well, you guys with your superhero movies, we're going to provide entertainment that that good God-fearing people can watch. And like Ben Shapiro's company, he's part of a company that's trying to create they're doing Snow White. They're trying to create wholesome entertainment for super conservative, right-wing people, which doesn't have a great track record. One other question that the Marvel thing brings up is, can DC ever return to being as entertaining as Marvel movies? For 15 years ago, you had good Batman movies. Then you had some sucky Superman movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jim.
Yeah. Speaking on behalf of nerds everywhere, Wonder Woman had a fantastic costume. You couldn't take your eyes off of her, and
super sexy.
Super sexy. And Xena the Warrior Princess, great costume.
Super sexy.
So, they didn't package Marvel that way. Now, Barbie was a cultural phenomenon, but I'm going to get back into this, lead for sci-fi nerds. The lead, has generally been male, and to have a superhero female, not in a sexy costume,
That's what I
that,
said.
that's the problem. And
That's
so
what I
that
said.
might, it might have been part of going to the well once too often too. But I think we see the Avenger movies happening again and again, the Thor movies. I don't think it's that. I don't think people have been tired of superhero movies. I still
Every
think
one of the previous X-Men female superheroes all dressed super sexy, bodysuits very tight, super fit. Angela Jolie on Tomb Raiders, when she made it, she was super.
What a body!
Super sexy.
Super.
So ideal.
Kim, but even the villains were super sexy. I was a big
That's
fan.
what I'm saying.
Not just because Halle Berry played it, but Catwoman was a very amazing, super sexy lady, and definitely was a very much of a bad person in the Batman legacy.
Catwoman tanked. Catwoman was not a successful movie.
No, it wasn't. You're absolutely
no. I'm saying,
right.
but as a villain, she was successful. When they tried to make the movie,
she was in the X-Men movies too. The X-Men movies were successful, and she was in that.
Nobody's ever managed to make a decent Fantastic. They keep trying to make Fantastic Four.
I know.
It's always
but Vic, I got two questions for y'all.
And I like
I got
it.
two questions
I
for y'all
like
based on what
Fantastic Four.
Me too.
I got a question based on what we're talking about.
We're into this Marvel movie or something to add some flavor to it. Obviously,
but I got a question for everybody on the panel based on what we're saying. One is that let's just look at the name of the movie. I mean, if I am a young child or if I'm one of my teenage nephews and everything, and I'm going to the movie theater and everything, am I really going to be compelled by a movie called The Marvels? I mean, I wouldn't even know what that is and everything because it doesn't really bring you into the naming of what the movie is. I mean, yes, I'm imagining it's going to be Marvel characters, but it's just called The Marvels. It doesn't really tell me what this is going to be about in that sense. And the other movie that is having a hard time is a movie that is, while the characters might have been compelling, the what they were modeled after are not all that compelling. Kim, when was the last time you had a good encounter with either ant or a wasp? Because the other character that has been running into problems is the movie called Ant-Man and the Wasp. That is the other
and
one.
And we know I'm highly allergic and ended up in the hospital. So,
That's what I'm saying.
Bad move. But,
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Not
that
their
doesn't even
favorite
sound like a
character
title
growing up.
I'm trying to go see.
No, but I want to add to something about the
So
marketing.
that movie-
I never really heard much about the new Marvel movie coming out with marketing impacting it. Freedom, on the other hand, I saw so much, The Sound of Freedom, I saw so much good marketing on it that I was compelled to watch it long before it came out. And the producer, the executive producer who did that movie, that's all he did was push. He's still pushing it. You would think by now he would just walk away and take his money, but I still see him pushing it. I saw him on every conference for high level TV. I think he was at NAFTA, Nick. I think he was at all of them, and he was pushing his movie. And that is something I think Marvel was trying to rely on their name. And again, usually I'll see ads for, something, but I didn't even know the movie came out, to be honest with you, until I saw it lost money. And so I think it was a lack of really good, informative, fun marketing that drew you in and said, I have to go see this. I never saw it.
Yeah, Kim, there's also the thing is, speaking as a nerd, and I'll talk to Rick one-on-one here, I read a lot of comic books, and I didn't know the backstory of Captain Marvel. It was like, I just didn't know. Now, I watched it out of curiosity, mostly, and but I wasn't compelled to. The Avengers, of course, I grew up with. The X-Men, I grew up with. Superman and Batman, I grew up with. And I agree that the Superman movies were not good, but I watched them.
They were great. What do you mean not good? They were awesome.
Okay, the love affair between Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois. Yes, I like that part, but They weren't.
Well, no, the
Theater,
early the more recent
theater.
Superman movies weren't. The Christopher Reeve movies were great. The
Yes.
more recent Henry Cavill movies were not great.
No, I mean, Christopher Reeve could pull the theatrics. And so those movies were more theatric than they were special effects. But it was amazing to see somebody fly on a movie screen and do the things that he did. But I think it was more about the theatrics and the story.
Hey, I remember watching Star Trek.
Hold on a second, Jim, and this is actually for Jim, Kim, and everybody on the panel. Isn't one of the things that is going on, because one of the things I'm hearing a lot of people talk about, and y'all kind of alluded to it earlier, is that going to a movie isn't just about the movie itself. It's about you being in the space. That's why some people even like the metaverse and some of the things that it can create and all along those lines, because it's about being able to create an experience of you literally being in the movie itself. So you're not actually acting in the movie, but you are so much of the imagery is so real that you feel like you're in the movie. So there are people that are, I remember when the 3D glasses first came out and they were a big deal. Now people are wanting the whole movie experience. Like you see movie theaters that are entire complexes where you get to have a restaurant and you get to maybe go on the dance floor. It's a whole event and everything going to a movie. So is that part of the problem, is that they have not done enough of that with the Marvel movies that are coming out now, because everything that I'm hearing is making it an experience.
I got a question for Sasha. Sasha, you didn't grow up like Rick and I did with comic books, did you?
No.
Yeah, so you don't know some of these characters that we're talking
I read
about.
only tragic books, no comic books.
Right.
I grew up frustrated with comic books because comic books were slapped, you know, they were a little bit sloppy and slapdash, and they were innovative, but they were written for 10-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And movies have to
I never
take
grew up.
what they call the canon, which is what happened in the comic books, and make it for everybody, including adults. You got to make all this comic book nonsense, kind of put it in a framework that makes sense.
That ties together. Yeah.
But hold on a second. Hasn't been going on for a while? Because one of the things that I like to call the Shrek effect, and I'm thinking about Eddie Murphy when that movie first came out, but a lot of movies, particularly comic books, are arranged in such a way that they will have adult content and jokes that are clearly intended for the adults that are coming as well. That's what I meant when I said it's even becoming a family affair, because there are a lot of, even in some of these comic books, there are a lot of innuendos that are put in there that are intended for the kids not to get, even though kids are much smarter than we give them credit for and everything, but they are intended for the adults to get these hidden innuendo jokes that are in a lot of these films.
That's a good point, Mark.
So one about Marvel movies is, if you're going to spend $200 million on a movie, there's going to be a lot of quality control. The script is going to be scrutinized, you know, like 8 Ways Till Sunday. So you know you're going to get a quality product. If you watch like a cheap movie on Netflix, you know, that was made for $8 million, it might be that nobody doctored the script. One person wrote the script, managed to get some financing, made it, and you're like, you watch it and you're like, this could have been a good movie if they'd hired a consultant like a Quentin Tarantino to come in for $1 million and make the dialogue not stink.
Yeah.
At least with Marvel movies, everything is highly polished.
Yes.
Because it's such a huge investment.
Highly polished and everything. Just really quickly, along those same kind of lines, and this is for everybody on the panel as well, there is another movie that is getting a lot of play because it is somewhat controversial in its portrayal of a icon and all along those lines, even though it is being directed by an icon in the film industry. But there are a lot of people that are paying attention to this new movie that's called Elvis and Me, which is about Priscilla Presley and all along those lines and everything in that space. So, well, it's about that whole relationship. And Sofia Coppola, was the daughter of the famous director and everything, is the one that has written and directed this A24 distributed biopic. And they've got Kaylee Spaney, who I've never heard of, playing the wife of Elvis Presley. They've got Priscilla serving as the executive producer on the film, as it's caused some controversy due to its portrayal of Elvis, and the film is not sanctioned by the official Presley estate. So even Priscilla said, I was very concerned about this movie, but she added, I think it's right on, to be honest with you. And she said that Coppola was so wanted to be right that she and wanted to approve, and said that she would not approve another filmmaker adapting her 1985 autobiography. So definitely, I guess they wanted to.
I'm not remotely interested in watching that film. Not remotely interested. You know, Elvis.
Not remotely interested.
Well, you know, the thing is, the judge is the box office. So, you know, it doesn't matter what we think. It's how well did they do in the box office? How much did they think? Now, somebody who did do something well in the box office is Taylor Swift. Okay. What she did, it seems to me, as a side, I'll just throw a camera out there when I'm doing my show in Los Angeles. We'll just film it to see if anybody watches it on the big screen. Well, it didn't cost much to have the camera run around and take pictures of Taylor Swift, but she pocketed nearly $200 million because her Swifties came out in droves to go watch it.
Of course,
because it costs $20 to see the movie, but to go to a Taylor Swift concert might run you $500.
Yeah, but appealing to cult audiences like Barbie and Taylor Swift, is this where the media is going to, as opposed to Marvel, which looks like Marvel and Disney are going down the toilet?
That's
Look at all the cult movies.
Generalizing from an N of one. That's nonsense. They're not going down the toilet. They're making mega money.
I think
remember the movie The Last Waltz?
Disney,
do you know if The Last Waltz made any money? That was the band. And the band was, you know, for guys like me, they were a great band, and it was The Last Waltz was about them, and I loved it. I loved the movie, and you know, but I don't know if it made any money, you know. But I don't think the cultural phenomena of Barbie is saying that all movies are going to be like that from now on.
I hope not.
And we're a long way from ending the superhero movie making business. But at some point, I watched Star Trek and I was amazed at the phaser in 1960s when it came out. The phaser was remarkable to me. And beam me up, holy cow, that was so neat. That was mind blowing.
Well, that was very neat. There was some amazing technology in there
being made.
Bring us something
new.
Hey,
Jim, just really quickly, because I heard what y'all said about. Yeah, I heard what y'all said about not going to watch this movie about Elvis and me and everything, and there are a lot of people that probably have that same sentiment, but there is another part of the world that goes on as well, and it's a very rich part of the entertainment world that's called documentaries, and there is actually a new documentary that is coming out by Dawn Porter that is going to be looking at Lady Bird Johnson, who has definitely been gone from our society for a number of years.
I'd be
the Lady Bird Diaries and everything along those lines. So will you be rushing anybody here on the panel to go watch that? Because I think a lot of history buffs probably will be wanting to see this new documentary that will be looking at this historical figure and a wife of a former president and all along those lines. So will you be rushing to check that particular documentary when it hits and everything? Because she's definitely iconic.
I'm not against the Elvis and Me movie. I think that it's trying to ride off of the glory that Elvis did, a year ago. And I just think it's wrong timing. I don't want, and I think that would make a good documentary type movie. But I think that they were riding too close to that fame and glory. And I just, unfortunately for Priscilla, she's taking a back seat again to Elvis when I think she was a very beautiful woman and very smart, but because she married him. But, and you know what? I don't think he would have rose so fast without her. Every man has that good person in their life that helped them get to that level. So I think that she was probably that person that encouraged him. But I think Lady Bird, because I'm nobody to do movie reviews, because it's more my type of story. It's my history. It's, things that I've heard about, and I'd like to see if it compares to the stories that were, I've heard. So it's just a preference.
Sure.
I like watching this kind of
That makes
stuff
sense.
with
Hey,
my wife.
Well,
because-
one at a time.
All right.
Okay.
I like watching with my wife because she was just a little kid when Lady Bird was the first lady, and I like watching her learn all this stuff. We were watching the CNN Tom Hanks doc on the 60s. You know, they did every decade, and we were watching the Kennedy assassination episode, and I learned a little bit of stuff, but I enjoyed my wife learning freaking everything.
Yeah.
I don't know much about movie reviews, but I can help out a little bit. Maybe Sasha can comment on this about this particular stock. It's Disney. Their stock is down 23% in the last 5 years. Would you consider that to be a good investment, Sasha, losing 23% of your value over 5 years?
There are some investors who enjoy torturing themselves. And this is one of the top stocks for them to own because they will feel that they're part of a great American story, the movies and so on.
Disney.
They lose a little bit of money here and there. And it's a doomsday stock. It's
Buy
one of the
now.
worst
Buy
stocks.
now.
Hey,
Buy
and-
now.
Hey, Sasha,
I
think
Sasha
that's
and
for-
Jim.
Buy now.
No, Sasha and Jim,
Buy
this is
now.
for both of you. This is for both of you, and it comes back to the stock. And I know Modern Investment will be coming our way on Wednesday and everything. But the Hollywood strike is now done. Both the writers and the actors have come to a agreement, and all along those lines. But a lot of people are saying that the theatrical damage has only begun to actually come out there, and that there are a number of movie houses, theaters that are out there that are multiplexes and all along those lines. And they are saying that already the theaters have lost around 400 million to 600 million in gross, more than that when you include their lost concession revenue. So with the notion of these movie houses out there, and I can't think of one off the top of my head and everything, but there are these movie houses that are running a lot of these companies and running a lot of the theaters themselves. Which ones would you personally be investing in, and are there any that you think are a solid bet? Because I do remember, like I said, there was this whole trend of the ones that were more of an experience, like where you might have a restaurant and other things in there as well.
Everything we've been talking about is based on normal forms being disrupted. COVID, wrecked the movie house ecosystem.
Absolutely.
The Taylor Swift concert movie is because musicians stopped being able to make money from albums because of streaming music, and the only way they could make money is touring, and touring is super expensive for the consumer. So now you've got this possible new form of concert movies, and I wouldn't invest in any movie houses, and I'd be looking for the next way for people to efficiently stream information and entertainment into their brains. Like if there's some company, we've heard about it for 20 years now, that means you can stream entertainment directly from your glasses or from contact lenses. If somebody's going to be able to do that, I'd invest in that company.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I'm seeing that it's not just Warner Brothers, by the way, or Marvel, because I'm seeing some others that have had some great losses as well. And some of them are coming back to that sequel notion, because Dune Part 2 and Kraven the Hunter, whatever that is, and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which are both Sony properties, will cost this year's total the most, perhaps 400 million. And Ghostbusters would have only had 12 days of 2023 play in the first place and everything. But that's the kind of money that we're talking about. And that's just not Marvel. That was Warner Brothers with a sequel to Dune, because that would be part 2. And Ghostbusters, how many Ghostbusters have we had? This must be the third or the fourth one, because I have no idea where you're going in Frozen Empire. Maybe they're going to do Ghostbusters in the Antarctica or something along those lines. I haven't heard of
This latest
movie to see what it's going to be.
How many Fast and Furiouses do we
Yeah,
have? I
7
lost
at least.
count. Thank you.
I've lost count, yeah.
I quit after 3 usually.
I never saw any of them.
My brain stops after 3. But But one of the things I wanted, we talk about investing. This is the time of year, I would take a look at the market, because this is the time of year I sit down and I watch all the old, beautiful holiday stories, maybe some romance stories, things that just get you comfy, cozy in front of the fireplace or feel good. Those kind of movies, and most of them are reruns because they just don't make them that good anymore. And then on Christmas Day, and this sounds so stupid, but on Christmas Day, so many families go, after they get up and do whatever, they go watch a movie at the theater, and it's become a tradition for them. And I listen to people talk about, what's going to be the movie this year. I mean, I remember the first time my family started it, and I don't keep up with that, but the first year my family did it was when 101 Dalmatians came out with the remake with Cruella being Glenn Close, and so, and I remember that, and I'm like, gosh, people really get into going to movies on Christmas Day. So I would invest in the movie coming out on Christmas Day.
Yeah, and what good holiday movies coming out of Hollywood? Holiday movie out of Hollywood? None. What they did good is obviously going on strike and asking for more money because they're supposed to be good actors and good script writers, Rick. But apparently they can't create one good movie. So what's going on? There's no good holiday movies. Why are
the screenwriter?
You said one very important word: money. Finally, you said very important word. I have limited experience in producers' business. The one group that all of them knew me, they created some kind of a Broadway type of Broadway show that it was basically the best hits of Broadway, that they put a little bit of story. So they were going from one hit to another, dance, sing, and the music. It was just another show. I don't think it was great, but it was another show. The performance level was pretty good. And so they asked me if I would like to invest in that show, because they were preparing their tour in Florida and so on. I asked, okay, what we're talking about. So they showed that the budget is $10,000 a week. And they were calculated that after 6 months they will clear up so much money and so on. And I said, let me think about it. And then I came back with a proposal. So the budget will not be $10,000 a week, but $25,000 a week, of which $15,000 will go to executive producer. And they asked, who is executive producer? I told them, one who is financing that. So now with this situation, I was quite warm to invest in this, because I would take my money out reasonably quickly. If the show wouldn't flop in about 1 month, I would make actually a lot of money. After 2 weeks, I would break even. If less than 2 weeks, then I would lose some money. So I told them, look, you have no money on the line. You will just receive a paycheck for every show that you do. So I'm the one who is risking money. So, okay, they agreed to that. The show went on for 2 months, and it was pretty good. They made their money, I made my money, and then the show closed. But what I'm telling you is that if I could, like being nobody in show business, if I could get away with such an agreement, you can only imagine what pros in Hollywood or in Broadway or anywhere else, how much money they're clearing, and they're just being even half smart as I am.
So yes. the Hollywood accounting has always been mysterious and exploitative, but it's less transparent than ever. You used to have TV ratings, and then that system fell apart. Now with streaming, you're not getting numbers from anybody. So you don't. It's,
along those same lines.
Well, you don't know who's making. I mean, the CEOs make 150 million a year, but you don't know how if Netflix is making money or not, and what shows are. It's not. it's another way to kind of rip off everybody but the people in charge.
Rigo, on Netflix, you can see their quarterly or even annual financial statements. Of course, they don't go from show to show and so on, movie to movie, but you see the picture.
Yeah, Jim.
And they're doing quite well.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to what Rick said about COVID. You know, it destroyed going to the theater as a family affair or as an individual. Same was true with Broadway shows. My wife and I used to go to New York and London every year just to see shows. And we haven't done that since COVID. So, you know, this is a big negative effect. And how are we getting back? The one movie that I did go to recently, I was amazed at how they had redone the theater. You know, it was kind of spotless. There was more room. The seats were more comfortable. You know, so the theater industry itself is still trying to recover. And I don't know if it has. But, you know, what Rick was talking about is like, you know, the streaming, all of this kind of stuff, you know, like how much did the Avenger movies make in the theater as opposed to, you know, by subscriptions, and all of those types of things have to be factored in when we're talking about this. But the one point I wanted to make about this is the other thing that got me to theaters was star driven. You know, I don't know how the latest Indiana Jones movie did, but Harrison Ford used to be a bankable star. You know, if you had him in the movie, people were going to go see it. You know, and I could list a number of people that were like that. You know, some people I wouldn't go see, but other people thought were great and would go to see. And, you know, so I'm not sure we can generalize about what is the future of the movie industry and how are they going to get audiences back into the theaters to watch.
I've heard that the only reliably bankable star anymore is Tom Cruise.
Wow.
Yes.
Mission Impossible 6 or what is it? Yeah.
But look at how he markets and the support he gets from marketing. And he's been doing this for years and years and years and years. I mean, and he's been doing it. He has partaked in the directorship and the business aspects of it. Everything to him isn't just being the star of the movie, it's the investment, and his heart's in it. And you don't find that with all the other movies that we end up with. So he is bankable.
He takes it very seriously. 8 months, a year before the Mission Impossible came out, there were clips of him riding a motorcycle off a cliff. And, you know, just falling thousands of feet through the air.
And him talking about it.
And him doing his own stunt.
The story of, oh my God, I had to do this more than once.
He did it a dozen times. He had a parachute on his back. He rides a motorcycle. And like that's, you know, for the previous one, they released footage of him holding on to the outside of an airplane as the airplane took off. They got permission. They're going to do he's going to go up to the space station and do a movie up there.
I wouldn't have seen Temple of Doom without Angelina Jolie. I mean, you know, a lot of his stuff is still star driven. I don't know if anybody, like, how about the Rocky movies? How many were there? You know, I'm not saying Sly Stallone was a very good actor. But,
but I love the backstory to Rocky and the fact that he tried to take that script to Hollywood with a friend and try to get it pitched as a series, and they turned it down because of certain things, and he went and did it on his own. I love his backstory.
Me too. I agree.
And I think that's what makes that movie. I would go see another one. I don't like more than a 3 set, but I would go see another Rocky, not because I think he's hot or sexy, but or good performer. I just like his ethics, his work ethics.
Good for you.
And he always produces good movies. I mean, the guy works really hard at it, but he was really broke. He definitely was all in on Rocky 1. I mean, the guy was broke, living like in homeless shelters, and all of a sudden,
had to give up his dog, and I mean,
great story. Great.
So if the backstory makes the cover story look even, to me, more attractive. But I think that there's something to be said about the celebrities that are promoted today, because it's more about the money and not about the passion of the work that they're putting into it. And I just think that there's something to be said about that. I haven't seen a movie that has truly moved me since the one about the teacher called Ron Clark with Matthew Perry. That movie moved me, and I never thought Matthew Perry to be that great, but it moved me. Not many movies are out there moving people anymore, and that's sad.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they banked everything on the Disney Marvel $1 million a minute, shoot everything down, and then obviously Miss Marvel just crashed. So now I don't know what they're going to do to regroup, because if they don't do anything, they've got some serious problems.
No, they'll be fine. That's a drop in a bucket, Nick. They make that in one day at Disney.
How many Broadway plays flop?
They showed that Disney stock is down 23%.
I know, but have you ever been to Disney? They'll recover that in one day. Just go spend some money one day in Disney and they'll be fine.
They got the governor against them too.
Well, did you know they raised their prices to go to Disney World?
I know.
Almost $200
That's
a
sad.
day.
That's
It is sad.
I think you underestimating Disney's potential. You know that there is a sucker born every minute. So there will be enough suckers for them to visit their properties and see their movies or so on. I don't think that the stock will recover, but okay, it will go maybe a little bit higher. Then it will go even lower than there is now.
Plus, they have a bankable inventory. They have a great inventory. Yeah.
I mean, let me ask you this question. How many of you have a Disney movie in your house of some shape or form, whether it's old VHS, DVD? Yeah. There you go. I got about 200.
Keep them in business.
You're
growing.
I got last two numbers of 200. I have 2 zeros.
I'm just glad I wasn't more.
Okay, there are a couple of movies that make Marvel to shame, really. If you take great movies like Doctor Strangelove, or even more recent one like Pulp Fiction, for example, all these Marvel movies are garbage.
That's what Hollywood sells.
These little kids today, they're playing video games. They may take all these themes and buy video games. That's I would not rule out. But I don't know if Disney conducts video games business. Not sure.
Video games
like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? A lot of people don't even know that movie, and it's a very big cult movie, and I liked it. I still do. So, geek.
Yeah.
Sasha brings up a good video games gross more money than movies do. And eventually all these worlds are going to merge even more, that if you want to live in a Marvel universe, you'll strap on your VR, your AR goggles. You'll be able to do that. If you like the world in a movie, then eventually you'll be able to live in that metaverse. You know, maybe not 5 years from now, but 10 years from now.
Well, you know, to add to that, the new AI-driven video games, you can create your own movie now. You just create characters, and everyone is a character, and you just create, you know, and you create a new outcome based on what you do and where you go. I mean, you
can connect to other people, so you're all in the comfort of your own homes, but you can participate in multiplayer activities.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
I was at the gym a couple months ago, and this crazy woman was trying to impress her boyfriend by being a complete dick to me about a machine I wanted to use. And, you know, I've been going to gyms forever. I know how etiquette works at the gym, and she was just going, the manager got involved, and I left the gym because it was just too much. But in the future, I can imagine that you'll put on your reality goggles and you'll be able to replay that scene where I just like punched that lady in her face or something. that people,
Exactly. Exactly. Replay your day and then post it on social media, and people
Yeah.
can watch.
And you
your
don't have
movie.
to apologize to anybody. You sleep
no,
sound.
but you get to see how it plays out
Yeah, right.
without actually getting arrested.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. That's a good stress reliever.
Yeah, you got the IRS right in front of you, Kim, and you got a machine gun.
Yeah, maybe
wait a
replace.
minute,
Maybe
wait a
it would reduce the amount of, people actually acting out those feelings in public, and just do it in your VR world. I
No, it
mean,
works
yeah,
both
that's
ways, though.
brilliant.
It
That
works
is
both ways.
brilliant, James.
So that was the argument about pornography in the 70s. Some people said if you let people have pornography, it'll give them an outlet so they don't attack people in real life. And then the other side of the argument said, no, if you show people too much porn, you'll make them crazy sex fiends.
Yep.
And then the argument just got completely obliterated, because the internet means that, you can
Have access to everything. Yeah.
the war on porn, we lost, porn won.
Well, right.
Well, you
Well,
do
I
know that's
thought the
what
porn
paid
in
for
the
the
porn one.
bandwidth, right? That's what paid for the internet.
Yeah.
Was porn, because they couldn't get the money from the government for education and medical reasons. So porn actually pushed the bandwidth to the edge and paid for all the bandwidth we have today.
Yeah, and
What a
Rick, aren't we
commentary.
going to see movies that are designed and starring all with artificial intelligence? Then we don't need SAG-AFTRA, and we don't need the writers anymore. I mean, aren't they kind of a waste on a going forward basis?
I think we need the writers.
Yeah, the right now, at least, the products, the movies made with AI are a little bit fake, in that all the decisions that generate the AI are still made by people. That AI can only do so much right now. In the future, it'll be able to do more, but right now it's a little bit of a shell game.
Yeah,
where you
but
claim
we'll-
it's AI, but it's really people making all the decisions and tweaking it to make it makes.
Yeah, but don't you think Disney could be much more profitable if they used AI script writers, AI actors, and just got rid of the actors?
No, because the writers are much less than 1% of the overall budget.
Okay.
AI still hasn't learned
a little more.
Department of Labor.
Right. AI still doesn't have the capacity of empathy. And I think the human factor, adding that empathy into the writings and being able to show how a human feels, is still very, very important factor. Just like I was saying earlier, a lot of our movies are missing that factor to draw us in. And but we're using more special effects than theater. And I've learned that the more theatric something is the more I am drawn to it. It's really interesting. But I'm finding that the special effects are not, my brain is not attracted to. I mean, it's fun for a minute, but I love the more theater side of the storytelling and movie making. And I think we need to get back to the human factor. I really do.
What I'm saying is that Hollywood has not created a good holiday movie in decades.
No,
okay?
they haven't.
So since there's such an abject failure in California, and they can't seem to create one good piece of movie in decades, that perhaps we should turn it over to artificial intelligence and let them design the movie, let them star in the movie. At least they'll produce a product possibly better than what Hollywood produced, because they haven't produced anything. What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts on that is like, what I find interesting is It's a Wonderful Life. How many times have they remade that? Thank God they haven't. Yeah. But
okay, that's a special case. It's a Wonderful Life is this huge holiday movie because somebody screwed up and forgot to copyright it. So you can show it all the time, and you don't have to pay anybody.
Hey, we
And
could
that
show it
led
on
to
Pod TV Network.
it wasn't that huge a hit when it first
You're
came
right.
out.
It has no copyright.
And it led to viral, right? It led to viral.
It went viral. There's certain things like that. Yeah, Hollywood. It's a Wonderful Life did not renew its copyright, so we
But
can sort of-
nobody's ever really remade it because it's so good. And I've
Yeah.
heard so many. I mean, I finally learned the story about Jimmy and what was going on in his life with post PTSD and things like that. So his ability to convey these feelings and the tears were all real. But I think that nobody today knows how to make movies that are good enough for holiday anymore. They've been trying like a recent religion movie, and then everybody goes, well, I hate it because it depicts this, this, and this. And I'm like, it's just a cool story now. You know, it's just showing a different side to probably the Bible that wasn't told. And I don't know what movie it was, but they were shooting it down saying, you know, the women are doing this and the men are doing that. And I said, they're just appealing to today's people. But nobody is telling good, wholesome story. Have you even seen a good storyteller lately? Like somebody who knows when to pause
Well,
and then
No.
kick back in? You know, no, I haven't.
Other than Jim Mead, no one else knows. how
Tom
to tell.
Hanks. Tom Hanks does a good job. So, but
Forrest Gump was a good movie.
yeah, well, all his, if you think about it,
Yeah,
he's
Castaway. That was a good movie. I,
Yeah.
I think that you were overstating it when they say that nobody makes good movies anymore. They do, but you know, we do have. Why would you make a movie? It's to sell to an audience. So if your audience is looking for a certain thing, that's what you're going to produce. You know,
Right.
so if you really want people to create these, tearjerker type of movies, I think there's still an audience for that, and so certain movies get made to play to that. But you know, right now we live in a time, and it might be a brief period of time, where the action adventure, the computer enhanced quality is getting people to watch, and so that's why they're making them. Now, you know, if the audience wants something different, you know, the movies will be made for them.
Well, and I have to agree with you on that movies are being made for certain purposes. And for a long time there, it was all about the toy that would be made afterwards to be sold through McDonald's and then, you know, on the shelves for Christmas. So everything was always patterned, if you noticed,
Really
from when the movie went out to when, you know, McDonald's would push the toy, and then all the toys were on the shelves for Christmas, and you had to have that toy, otherwise your kid just would hate Santa. So I mean, for years that it was that, and I agree with you. I think there are some good movies, but to me, there's something missing in the last few years that doesn't attract me to want to go spend my money. Except for the latest Michael Jordan movie, I thought was very well made, and I don't think it got enough public attention. But I think it's just because I knew the story going in, right? So I kind of knew everything, and I recognized people and I recognized names, and so it just meant more to me.
Sure.
But you know, go ahead.
Oh, and with that, we're at the hour, so we're going to have to end this movie and enjoy the movies
This is fun.
this holiday season. There won't be any good ones to see, but that means you can enjoy the holidays and forget.
Buy now, Disney stock.
See you next week.
Buy
Bye-bye.
Disney stock
Bye.
for Peter. Bye.